No Jumper, coolest podcast in the world. My man Chad Muska right here just experienced Instagram Live for the first time. So his whole life just changed.
I'm old school, man.
Your whole life just changed irreversibly. Like, things will never be the same now that you know what that comment stream is like.
The hearts were popping up. I seen some things go up. Yeah.
The hearts in the corner. That's the stupidest thing, because it doesn't actually like mean like, okay, it's just you're getting a bunch of hearts. It's not really telling you anything. It's just that verification of like, yo, you're important. You're good. Here's some hearts.
Yeah. Isn't that what all social media is, though? Mm-hmm. To some extent, you know, it's. I was thinking this earlier today, that it's a tool, and it's just like any other tool. You can use it in the correct way, and it can be very helpful and useful to yourself, or you can use it in the wrong way, and it could hurt yourself. You could hurt others, and it could become a negative thing. It's just another tool that exists in this world.
Yeah.
You know?
Completely. No, I think about that. Like, you know, growing up, I always viewed TV as this just complete waste of time. But now a lot of the best like entertainment out there is basically on like Netflix or HBO or something. And it's like, that's still television, but sort of the game has changed, where it used to be just these garbage, you know, game shows or whatever. And that still exists. But now that same type of content, you know, like if you go on Netflix, the incentive is not to create some total brainless garbage content. The incentive is to create something so interesting that people will actually subscribe and sign up for it. So a lot of the best stuff in entertainment's going on TV.
Same thing with YouTube. YouTube made me pay for Red so I can watch the Karate Kid was a sequel. Have you seen it?
Never even thought of that.
Dude, they made the Karate Kid, that's called Cobra Kai, and it's the same cast members 30 years later, and they, you know, and their lives, and it's like, holy shit. And you see them, and the storyline is dope, and I'm like, fuck, it made me buy YouTube Red because there was no other way to watch it, you know? So I was like, fuck, I'm hooked.
Right.
So it's really fucking great.
Well, I think the network stayed in a specific formula because they were so heavily invested in that formula, you know, and then as the times changed and content was so fast and so much access to content that they were forced to, and these other platforms had to keep their subscribers, so it was forced to come up with something new, exciting, and keeping people glued to their TV screens.
Let me ask you this, and this might be a revealing question. This might tell us something about Chad Muska, the man, who you are today. What subscription services do you pay for? Netflix, Spotify, etc.
Spotify. Okay. I have Spotify. I do have Netflix, but it's more for my girlfriend than myself. I don't watch TV at all. The times that I do watch television is usually at night, and I'm a YouTuber.
Oh, really?
So I go on YouTube and I research more. So I like a lot of. I like to educate myself, and I like to find out about. I'm immersed in so many different processes in this world of creativity, from my artistic expressions, from design, photography, video editing, all these things that I'm doing. There's so much information that you can never know it all about all these things. So I'm constantly searching for new techniques or methods in order to express these visions I have in my head. And so process is the main driving factor of all these things that I do. So I'm always researching process, and then also looking to history, because I don't have an academic background. I'm a freshman dropout of high school. And so
Same here.
I continued to, but it wasn't because I had a lack of interest in knowledge. I've always been thirsty for knowledge, but my educational system didn't grant me with the opportunities that I felt I needed, or they weren't encouraging me. They thought I was a bad kid because I was a skateboarder and dressed different, and you know, it's a different time now.
But
a little
YouTube
bit.
now, like YouTube is one of the greatest learning resources like imaginable, and it's completely like democratized education in a lot of ways, because a lot of the things, like my buddy Chris Long went to fucking film school and spent like 80 grand to learn how to like edit and make videos and stuff like that, and now he's like, that was a crazy use of my money because I could have learned all that shit on YouTube. He definitely learned some stuff, but like to justify that price, fuck no. Like we all know tons of videographers who are amazing. Like probably the vast majority of like skate filmers, the best ones, like didn't bother to spend a bunch of money, and the resources online are ridiculous.
Well, I learned how to do Photoshop because I couldn't rely on anybody anymore. So I spent 2 nights looking at fucking YouTube, and now I can, you know, put my watermark on things and do a couple like not great, I can do a flyer when I have to rely on other people, and I'm like, holy shit.
Well, I think something that education teaches you is routine. It teaches you to like be able to commit to something, follow through with it, and do it. But if you're gonna do something within creativity, no amount of education can teach you creativity. You either have that or you don't have that, I think. And if you're an artist or a musician, or you can like better your craft the more time you spend at it, but if you don't have it within you to become an artist or a musician or a graphic designer or any of these types of things, school's not going to teach you that, and you have to study and learn. But yeah, it's those platforms are amazing. I mean, that's the extension of the human consciousness of our evolution. Part of our evolution comes through this digital platform now. We're able to, like, any question that we have the direct answer right now. And that's a jump in evolution, if you ask me. It's very, very interesting, and think about back in the day, 10 years ago even, if you wanted to find out about something, you had to go to a library, find a book, research, call your friends, all this stuff. But it's coming to the point nowadays where if you ask somebody a question, it's almost stupid to ask that question. The question should only involve what is your take on this?
Right, yeah,
what is your opinion on this matter?
Like people will ask me like, yo, what day is that event you're doing? And the first thing that goes in my head is like, okay, it's on fucking Instagram. There's a flyer, obviously, and it's like, that's fucking a weird change in how we communicate, because it's like the information is so readily available that there's almost no reason to have basic, boring conversations. There's almost no reason for small talk.
Yeah,
how's the weather? What, you don't have a fucking app on your phone that tells you exactly how the weather is and how it's going to be in a few hours and tomorrow?
It's almost the same thing like with text messaging. Like people, younger people, like in their late 20s, early 30s, I'm still that dude that leaves a voice message. And I'm like, yo, did you not get my voicemail? It's like, no, I don't check that shit. No. I'm like, because everybody's used to nobody's used to picking up the phone and talking. It's text always. And that's what we've become. Is that there's no more, interaction. I feel a lot. You know what I mean? It's like everybody's just
sometimes you feel like, oh, like, am I repeating what they already know? It's like, yeah, I've been working on this art show and like I've been designing this shoe, and it's like, yeah, no shit. Like, but do we expect people to know that? Because maybe do we expect, oh, you follow me, so you should know all this information about me? Or like, is it still polite to share what it is you're up to with people? It's kind of a weird, you're like, am I just repeating myself by saying this stuff? Or do they really actually want to hear what I'm talking about right now?
Yeah. And like, as I get older, I see the appeal in like the traditional way of doing things, as in like, if me and you have to have an important conversation, all right, I'm gonna pull up on you, let's do a little meeting. If I'm mad at you, if I'm mad at anyone in my life, I would way rather just FaceTime them or like have a real face-to-face conversation rather than send them some snarky ass text message. And that's something I like about rappers. They're very quick to FaceTime you. And actually, I feel like a lot of them really depend on FaceTime. Is like, that's how they stay in touch with people, because they don't text that much. They're more into that straight up face-to-face where you can really tell if somebody's bullshitting or not.
Yeah, a lot of things get lost in text, like your delivery, the emotion. There's no real emotion in text, and it's open to interpretation of, sometimes even the other day, I remember I got a text from you about this project we're working on, and I'm like, yo, you mad at me or something? Like, because no. we're rushing to get things done, but he's in the middle of doing something else, and he's sending me kind of short responses, and I'm like, what's up, bro? You pissed at me or something?
Right.
Like what I'm trying to, I did everything I could do to make this happen. Like, it's not on me right now.
All I said was I was like, it's all good. Right. And now, because I was busy doing 10 things, he's like, yo, like, what's up with you? Like, are you okay now? Are you mad or something? I'm like, no, I said it's all good. He's like, yeah, but you're like real short. I'm like, no, I'm doing A, B, and C. He's like, oh, okay.
And meanwhile, like, maybe you're at a fucking wedding where you can't respond, and maybe you're driving on vacation where you got plenty of time where you can just text as much as you want. And those little lapses in communication all of a sudden build into big things. It's weird.
But the thing is, what I hate, it's like when people text and I'm driving, and I'm like, like, dude, what's up? I go, I'm driving. And they can still continue to text. I'm like, yo, just fucking call me. And I call them, and then they don't answer the phone. It's like, are you fucking kidding me?
But I like to segment my shit up. Like, if I'm driving, you can't call me. You can't text me while I'm driving because I won't even get into it. Maybe if I'm at a red light, I start to, a little bit. But for the most part, I don't feel bad about ignoring calls when I'm driving and shit.
That's good. As you shouldn't, know, because I mean, is it that text really important from risking your life or risking somebody else's life?
Sometimes.
But we're so addicted. We're so addicted, like, I mean, every time I pull up to a red light, I can't help but grab my phone, look at it, see what's going on, whether it's just my messages, my emails, Instagram, whatever things that you're trying to keep up with. We are all, to some extent, addicted to that device. And I was saying this also about social media yesterday, and even today I think I said it, is that it is the best, worst thing in the world. It's both. And it just depends on how you utilize it. Because, I mean, all the people, like for any person that does anything, to be able to connect instantly with your fan base and promote what you're doing, share these ideas with people, I mean, that's the coolest thing in the world. But this mass amount of energy and content and stimulation, it's like, even with the YouTube of learning all that stuff, we now have a lack of retaining that information because we're so immersed in all this information. So we stop actually holding that information because we know it's readily available anywhere. So we don't really learn. We learn in the moment now more. It's like, here's something we could learn. I got figured out how to do it. And then it's just like, you won't even, like, whose phone number do you know nowadays? Do you know any of your friends' phone numbers?
911.
And back in the day, I knew all my homies' phone numbers. It's like, you lost your phone. It's like, oh, pay phone, go there, call my friends up.
Dude, growing up, like, BMX and skate videos, if I got one VHS tape, I'm watching it like 100 times, maybe a couple hundred times. Nowadays, you watch a video part on YouTube, like, and unless it's that one banger video part that just blows your fucking mind into a million pieces, and there's so much good stuff coming out, you might just never think about it again.
And even then, even the best of the best videos that come out, years of hype, all this different stuff, people watch it and literally it's the next day they're on to something else. They might talk about it here and there still, but it's the recycle time is so fast now, and it's like, how do you really make how does somebody become really big and have longevity nowadays? It's a lot harder in these times, I think, and within music, within skateboarding, within everything. It's such a cycle of new constantly that it comes tricky. It's like, for skaters especially, they're within skateboarding, I mean, there's still superstars that are there, like you have like Nijas and P-Rod, and there's still like some
Lizard King.
Some younger generations that are
Jamie
big in hype. Jamie Foy. I mean, there's still a bunch there. But I still feel like it's not quite like you were saying, like back in the day when it was like, for BMX, for instance, for me, I don't know a whole lot about BMX, but like, Matt Hoffman was just the god, for me growing up and seeing it as a skateboarder, looking into it, and it's like, and it was just like, Matt Hoffman, it was like, so much hype around him and amongst a lot of other guys within the industry, that it seems similar now. It's just like a quick cycle. And with music especially, it seems like, where, there was music that defined an era, and now it feels more like it's like there's music that defines a month, kind of. It's like, this is what we're all feeling
Flavor
this
of the
month,
month.
and this is what we're going through. And it doesn't mean that there's not going to be longevity within music as well, too, because that does still exist. But it's just a different time and really complicated in order to keep up and stay relevant in all these things that are happening. It's interesting to me.
Like I was watching your Epically Later last night and just thinking about how insane that experience of like how big the Tony Hawk game got and how much that changed shit, because there had never been a skater really in a lot of ways who got that much like repetitive exposure over and over and over, where myself with Tony Hawk, I mean, I fucking played it every day for 6 months. That like minimum. And like I'm so fascinated about what that sort of experience was, because that's not something that many people get to go through these days, of becoming so much bigger than just you.
Yeah, and that was for, there were skateboarders that were famous within skateboarding, but I think that was one of the first times that skateboarding had been brought to the masses, brought these names into households for tons of people that didn't skateboard were now exposed to these names on a daily basis, and then they were playing it on the video game, and they got that feeling of skateboarding based on the video game. But that game for myself and for many of the other people within the game was life-changing. It was huge. You know, we went from being within our skateboard community to walking in a grocery store and going like, oh, you're Chad Muska from Tony Hawk video game. You know, it was a very interesting time and a major shift for skateboarding in general, I think, that allowed it to blow up and have all those kids.
Do you feel like that, in a way, turned you into like a cartoon of yourself in a weird way, because your image was being presented in such a crazy way through that game that it almost like sort of locked you into a style in a weird way, because people got so used to you being that animated version of who you were?
Yeah, it was basically like an avatar that represented you before avatars kind of existed in a way. You know, it was like definitely it was like being a cartoon television show of yourself that they could kind of make the episode how they wanted it to become, but that was huge, and none of us had any idea what was going to happen. I remember I got the call and they were like, oh, Tony Hawk's doing a video game, he wants to put you in it. I'm like, whoa, that's crazy, that sounds weird, you know, like.
But you don't know it's going to become that popular.
No way.
Most video games are failures.
Yeah, and either did Tony or anybody, you know, like they probably thought they'd put it out there and it would sell a couple, you know, some units and it would be done. And it was just a phenomenon, you know, that thing blew up, and it was just huge, and it really exposed skateboarding to millions of kids who may have never started skateboarding. And I think that was a major part of the turn in popularity of skateboarding, and it always had its waves of popularity. In the 80s it was big, kind of died out early 90s, and then from after that in the early 2000s when that came out, I can't remember the first year, but that's like right around when my career in skateboarding was really giving a rise and growing. That game came out, the X Games started happening, you know, all these things started becoming more televised and socially accepted. As when I was a teenager, skateboarding was very unsocially accepted, like, you know, or socially unaccepted.
Some rebel activity.
Yeah, and I was like, in my school, I was a bad kid just because I rode my skateboard. And, you know, my parents were always very supportive of me skateboarding, but a lot of my friends' parents were, you know, against it. It was a bad thing, and there was no light at the end of the tunnel. Nobody was like, even myself, I never in a million years did I think, you know, I'm going to start skateboarding and make a living off of it. Like, never. That wasn't a possibility when I was doing it. And that didn't deter me from putting every single thing I had in myself into that thing, because I loved it. That was it. The feeling of landing these tricks was the most important thing in the world to me. There was no, I'm going to do this and make a bunch of money and become famous, or that was like, if I was like, my biggest goal in the world was like, I might get a free skateboard from this company, you know, and that was the goal.
Do you feel like blowing the fuck up, because it wasn't just the video game, you just overall in general, like you became for quite a few years like one of the most popular skaters ever? Do you feel like that notoriety and fame actually, did that make the physical act of skateboarding harder for you to enjoy on just a raw level?
I think anything that you do for money becomes complicated at some point, you know. There becomes a level of expectation. When you work with companies, they want you to outdo yourself. They want you to constantly be on, because then you're a major part of that machine, that corporate machine, you know. And so there were times where I felt burnt out from it, you know. I went on tour for 20 years straight. I started touring and I just never stopped. And so I was, you know, going to Japan and going to Paris and London and, you know, Berlin. I mean, Canada. I mean, we were just going, you know, it was nonstop, but I loved it. I absolutely loved the opportunity to travel, meet these skaters from around the world that had a similar love for this skateboarding sport and the culture beyond skateboarding that I've always supported within hip hop, graffiti, breakdancing, DJing, producing. These are elements of my life that I've all grown up on. And to allow skateboarding to take me around the world and connect with all these different people and meet idols of mine that I had looked up to. And it's still, I'm waiting to wake up. I'm still waiting for it to be like, this actually really happened.
It's a dream.
You know what I mean? Like, I can't believe it, that it all took place. And as a kid, I would have never thought that this would have happened.
Did you feel like you got a ton of backlash for, because like we forget that 1999, being a white kid who was clearly like really into rap was much more controversial than it is now. Like now, if you were a 20-year-old skater who just turned pro and you rapped and fucking made beats, nobody would be surprised by that.
Yeah.
At the time, that was like way out there, and there's probably a lot of people who are not a fan of that, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it was just it definitely that the fact that I was different than what was happening within the industry, not uniquely to myself. There was a group of us all doing it. Cream Campbell,
right?
All the world's menace, City
the
Stars,
Menace City Star team. That was all like urban kids, like Gino Iannucci, Guy Mariano. They all dressed.
Then all the New York kids, the Zoo York movement, and
Peter
so there
BC.
was a community of people all doing it at the same time. I think during that time period, somehow I became more of a face for it, I guess, if that makes sense.
The poster boy.
But
because you were so big, and also it's like it's easier to hate on the white kid who's doing it than to hate on like the grimy kids from New York.
Sure.
You know what's really funny, and it's kind of sad, but there was this one kid, and I'm not going to mention his name, but I think if I tell you this, you'll remember this story. There was this one kid that was really, 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 really good skater kid, young kid. His dad was a famous pro skater, and he was hanging out at Brooklyn House right here, and Reem was like, "Yo, you should we should get him on Brooklyn House. This kid's like, I want to get him on City Stars." Like, da. I'm like, "Yeah, I'll talk to him." And then one day he just tells me, he's like, "Yeah, I talked to my dad," and he's like, "Nah, I can't ride for this shop." He's like, "Why?" He's like, "Because you have that Wigger Chad Muska part of the shop, and then you have that N-word Kareem Campbell, and he doesn't want me around that." And I'm like,
he just said that, like his dad had said it, and then he just repeated it.
His kid was 12 years old.
Oh my God.
I think
I don't want nothing to do with this one. No.
Even Wigger is a rough word.
Yeah, I got that a lot for sure.
Yeah, you don't hear it that much anymore. I got it a lot too. Yeah,
that's an old school word, guys. I guess now
it sounds offensive. I had some friends who made a hat that said Wigger on it, and from a distance, nobody thought it said Wigger. They got in a lot of controversy before they decided to stop making it.
It was just weird that Chad was like, he was so iconic, like just like when he would come to the store. Yeah, everybody would, back in the Brooklyn House days, people were like, "Oh, see Costin, oh shit, Costin and Guy," and it was him and Kareem, and I think the most important part why kids gravitated to him even to this day is because he's one of the most personable people. I've seen him sit after a contest or after a signing and sit till the last kid. It could be 4 hours, it could be 10 hours, whereas other pros, I can't, I'm busy, it's like he's still personable and he's never told a kid no. I mean, he would go and like in front of Brooklyn Park, just skate with kids, like, "Oh yeah, come on, let's like right here, let's do a trick." And kids like, "Oh fuck, this is Chad Muska." Like, what really? Like, it's just unfathomable. And
well, I mean, I came from nothing, straight up 100%, and I came up skating on the streets, and that's what I did my whole life. And I ran away from home and left everything and came here with nothing to make this happen. And as my career grew, I still stayed on the streets every day. That's what I did. I'll leave my house by myself, and to this day, I still do it and just go skate and run into people and some random skaters, have a nice session. And that was my childhood, and that's something that I try to carry with me and continue to do. And I remember as a kid, when I met a few pros that kind of shunned me at the skate parks or like weren't cool to me, like that like crushed me back in the day. I was like, "Oh man, like my favorite pros here, and they're like, "Beat it, kid," kind of, and I'm like, whoa, like, that sucked. And I thought like that I never wanted that my experience to be like that with anybody. So whenever I'm like was at a place or at a demo or autograph signings, whatever, like no matter what mood I was in at that time, I always tried to come at it with a positive vibe and be appreciative for that kid actually is stoked on me, because the day you got to be bummed is when those kids they're not hyped on you, you know? And so I never understood pros that would be mean to kids, because you're just like, why would you ever do that?
When you heard the part in your Epically Later where Tony Hawk said that, like, you know, before you, the sort of popular skater pose was to just not give a fuck, and then you came out and you were sort of like unabashedly like excited and like down to like go in at a gym and like down to fuck with the kids, and just like the way that Tony described that, were you aware of the fact that your sort of attitude towards being a pro was different than what was sort of the cool thing at the time? Like when you were sort of in the moment at that time, is it weird for you to hear Tony Hawk describe you as that way now?
I mean, I guess hearing anybody talk about you feel a little bit uncomfortable,
especially
with it
Tony Hawk
and whatnot, which is like, thank you, Tony. Much love, much respect, always. But not really, because I was just being me. Like, I would never try to like think about what I was doing. I would just react. I would just be. You know what I mean? And to this day, like, I would not try to put too much thought into. I would just want to be myself and just treat any other kids, because they're just like the group of kids I grew up with. Any place you went, these group of homies getting together at a skate shop and going in a parking lot and skateboarding. So it was no different, and I always wanted to experience like those places through their eyes, like as like I would. If somebody new skater came into our group, we'd be like, yeah, come on, kick it. Like, we're going to go to this party, or, you know, hang out at this spot, or skate, or, you know, go see a concert, and really like give that person the experience of our community. And so whenever I traveled, I wasn't trying to alienate myself from that, or be like this superstar skater that came in and signed an autograph and went back to his hotel room and hid out. Like, I wanted to like interact with that community and meet them and have fun and see and live, because that was, I mean, ultimately we're all here to live and experience, and that was an opportunity that I thought I would have never had in my life growing up. So like every place I went to, I was so hyped. Every place I got to meet new friends, and you know, and just it was crazy, man. It's still crazy. I get like tripped out even thinking about it, you know.
Yeah. When you think about being on the road for as long as you were, is like, was there a compromise between you being able to be on the roads doing like shop stops and shit as much, and you like going in for video parts? Like, was that a concern? Is like, if I'm fucking just out here on the road, like, you know, doing tricks in a parking lot for kids, I'm not going to be able to put my attention and effort into doing kink trails.
Yep. No, 100%. Yeah. It's like when you're constantly doing these skate demos, like I would give my all in those skate demos, and they'd be, you know, half the time it'd be like some sketchy piece of crap ramps, and you got to find like, oh, yeah,
cracks in the road.
I'm gonna fly off this rooftop or like something crazy just to like make sure that those kids went home with like, yeah, like, you know, something to remember. And that's just like, that ultimately is like such an amazing thing to be able to like, to this day, hear kids go like, oh, 20 years ago, you know, you came to this, you know, place in the Midwest or wherever, and, you know, and we'll never forget that day. And me and my homies talk about it. And it's like, wow, like, you know, because it wasn't my intention. It was just, like I said, I was just going there, doing what I love to do and sharing it with the people. And so to know that that had a positive impact on kids that now became adults and can share that experience with their kids, it's just a great thing, you know. But yeah, back to the question, that kills your body. And so there's a lot of expectation of the company to make these appearances and skating these demos hard. And while you still have to produce your video content or get an advertisement done, I mean, I mean, I wouldn't change it for anything, but a lot of people are like, oh, you had it easy. You got lucky. You're a pro skater. And a lot of people don't know the amount of work that it took to become this. And not only to get there, that once you get there, that's where the work begins. You know, you work your whole life to get to this point, and then you're like, oh, you're pro now, you made it. Hell no. That's the ultimate beginning of the work, and that's when you're like clawing at the you know, your spot and trying to maintain and keep relevant and be able to progress with skateboarding as it has progressed immensely. Like, I mean, it's insane the tricks these kids are doing nowadays.
And I feel like that's when a lot of people sort of lose their motivation, is once it's like, oh, all right, I got enough money to pay my rent and like pay my phone bill, and like maybe I got a car, and it's like, fuck, like it's the moment where kids realize like, fuck, like if I go kill myself and get 10 clips this week, or if I get one clip and just go party and shit, my money is gonna kind of stay the same, at least for a while. You know, like
for a
chill
while.
pros.
when you're killing.
Chill pros, right?
Yeah.
That's
Do you
what
use
chill
that phrase, chill pros? I like that.
There was so many. I mean, there was so
in the
many
late 90s,
in the
kind
late
of early
90s,
2000s, yeah, late 90s especially.
early 2000s. It was like there was like a handful of friends of ours that we just like, dude, like, you know, yeah, you got your fucking shoe deal. They were making like 10, 20 grand a month. Oh, I don't have to skate no more. Whereas Chad would be like,
although don't get me wrong, I had my party moments.
But you still
I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it for anything. I had a blast. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, we did.
Living life, and that was all part of it. And I think it's like one of my favorite quotes is from Oscar Wilde, and it's everything in moderation, including moderation. So that's the loophole of, you know, being able to go and wild out and have a great time. But as long as you're able to come back and focus, and at one point I realized that I got too heavy in the other side of it, you know, and that's when I had to go, okay, if I want to last and I want to be around for a long time, I got to check myself, and I got to make sure that I'm in control of my situation and nothing else is controlling me, and I'm not a slave to any substance or experience, or which happens. And so, you know, coming from nothing and making some money, I instantly felt there was this image I had to live up to. And as I tried to live up to that image, I realized that there was no cap to that image, because once you got this, you wanted to get this, and you wanted to get that, and you wanted to get that, and you keep going. And there's always somebody else. No matter, I had this like feeling like I was rich, I made it, I'm successful, you know, like I did all these things, but then I would meet people that were really rich, and I'm like, whoa,
skateboard rich.
Like I don't got anything, you know, but I did have everything, and that's what I had to stop myself and realize, because it's not, everything is not accountable in an exact dollar amount, you know, and or a comparable amount. Like if you catch yourself comparing yourself to others, you're never going to be satisfied with what it is you're doing. And so I had to kind of check myself in that aspect.
If you're in the club and you're trying to like compete with like the bankers and the rappers and stuff,
which I was trying to.
Wait a second though.
I was trying to, trust me.
We were though, because here's the thing though. We ran the clubs back in the early 2000s and 90s and late 90s, early 2000s. We ran it, and you know what?
Yeah, ran my bank account.
But the rich dude, the rich dude, A, wasn't getting in,
right?
Or B, he was paying a lot of money buying bottles, getting in, and guess what? The girls were hanging out with us. The famous people were hanging out with us because we didn't give a fuck. The rich guy was just like, so actually in hindsight.
Times have changed now a little bit.
Now you guys are those rich fucks, yeah. No, now you guys are the old men in the club. You got to pay if you want some bottles.
My club life is done, man.
You're over it 100%?
I retired, man. I'm like, I don't got nothing to offer there anymore, man. You
See,
know,
I think about it all the time. Like, fuck, like I got money now. Like I could go to the club. Like I could actually, like, you know, because I used to go to the club all the time when I was younger, and I was just, you know, I was a guy with tattoos, and like I could fuck girls because I had personality and stuff. And I think about it now, I'm like, damn, I actually like have what I was pretending to have back then.
But now you already did it, so you don't want to go back anymore. It's like, what's the point? What do you got to prove? You know what I mean?
Doing this ultimately like makes me happier. Working makes me happier. Like going to the club or what. The problem with the club is that there's just too many variables. Like I'm not trying to put myself in a situation where I could run into anybody. Anybody could do anything to me. Like it's too much like at risk at a certain point. Did you ever feel like that?
A little bit, yeah, for sure. There was a lot of haters against me. You know, anything that you do and become successful, you're gonna have a group of haters for sure. And then they see you at the booth with a bunch of girls and having a good time, and they're gonna snap on you. You know what I mean? They're gonna be drinking in the corner just watching you. You know, like I'm gonna get this motherfucker.
When I think about the club, that's what I think about. Oh, a fuckload of drunk people all in one room. Wow, it sounds like a lot of bad things could happen.
Well, there's no substance there to me. Like, you know, what are your actual conversations within the club? I'll tell you what mine were. Anybody. Mine were like,
yeah, kid,
what's up? Oh,
have a shot.
Yeah. That's what's up. Oh, look at her. What's up, man? Like, you know, that was my the height of my communication. And there would you know, go outside, smoke for a second, have some talks about business or what are you gonna do? We're gonna hook up, you know. But it's great to, people got to go through it. You know, I think as you're in your youth, you have to go out, you have to experience, you have to be in the mix. And still to this day, to some extent, like I have to go to certain events and certain,
shake hands,
you know, art shows or functions. But I like more specific things nowadays, opposed to just like head into the whatever the club is nowadays. I don't even know what the clubs are. But it's it's all part of the cycle, you know. And some people get it in later in life. They don't go throughout their youth, and they got to get that. You know, you got to do it at some point to understand it and know what it is. And I'm not downing on it at all. Just for myself, like you said. I mean, it's like
been there, done that.
I lived 10,000 lifetimes within the club already. I've done every single thing you could imagine in that lifestyle, and I had a blast, and I wouldn't change it all. But now to go back to that feels like I'm going in reverse now. Like I'm more interested, like what you said, in I'm a very deep thinker. I have a lot of ideas, and I want to manifest these visions into reality. And going to a club and getting drunk is not going to get me one step closer to that. No matter if I'm sitting next to the coolest person that's doing the best things in the world, even if you're in that environment surrounded by them, does that really get you closer to what your goal is in accomplishing it? You know, and for me, it was taking me backwards. It wasn't getting me more ahead in life. And so that's when I just had to realize, okay, if I don't know how I was successful and how I did anything during those years when I was partying and waking up with hangovers, and I don't even understand how I did a quarter of the amount of stuff that I was able to do. Now, you know, I'm sober. I'm completely sober nowadays. I don't drink. I don't smoke weed. I don't do anything. And I still have trouble getting it all done, you know? And I'm like, how did I used to do anything?
No, yeah, that's how I feel now. I'm like, God, I'm like busy fucking every minute of the day, and I don't have a hangover when I wake up in the morning. I don't have to go to the club for 5 hours at night. Like, how the fuck did I used to do that shit and still like keep it together?
You're talking to me. It's like, fuck, man. I used to live in the club 7 days a week. And I remember when we were younger, we had some older friends, homies that were in their, you know, early 40s. And like a lot of them started, you know, not coming out as much and whatnot. And I'd be like, dude, what the fuck? Like, you know, like, what are you doing? Why not? He's like, oh, dude, you know, I've been doing, I'm like, and I thought to myself, I'm never going to be that guy. And now it's like I have more fun and get more done. Like, with conversation and meetings and good people, like going to dinner, like at Crossroads, or going to like an art show, and then you get to meet people and talk, and like deals come from that, and like meeting new people outside the club. The club nowadays, I think we had it good. You know what I mean? Nowadays, you're gonna meet a girl. She's going to be a wannabe Instagram model. And then, you know, and it's like...
Oh, yeah. Is that where they're all at?
That's where you go there. You can just throw... I mean, dude, I remember the last time I went to a club, I think, is when I went with Chris Brown.
Just kidding,
baby. Got shot at.
He got shot at?
That time, like 2.5 years ago,
yeah.
I went to the club with him, and we're all hanging out, and it's like, yeah, having a good time. And I'm like, all these girls are talking to me, and I'm just like, they ain't talking to me. They're talking to me because of him. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, pop, 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 and I'm like, holy shit. And it's like, really? That was like the last time I went to the... was
inside the club?
Inside the club. It's when Suge Knight got shot. Wow.
You know, One Oak or something?
One Oak.
Yeah.
Gun tote. We call it gun tote. And it's like, you know, and it was like, wow, like, this is what the club is like. And then we go to, I mean, I've been to like Jen's clubs since then once, you know, Hartwell, like Hyde, or like the Heaney Room and whatnot. It's cool. And it's cool seeing some, you know, older friends that we have, you know, we used to go out with. You know, we go out maybe... I mean, I don't know if I can speak for Chad, but I go out maybe once every 6 months. And when you do, it's kind of like exciting. Like, holy shit, like, I haven't seen you. What's going on? Guy's married, or girl's married, or, you know, or you see some dudes that are, you know,
they're
doing the same fucking D May. It's like the same dude, doesn't age, you know? It's like, it's just like crazy.
And isn't it weird to think that like when you were going to the club all the time, all the people that were going to the club at that time, almost all of them are not doing that with their life anymore either. Like
some of them are though.
Some are like fucking Lemmy still sitting in the rainbow. Well, rest in peace. But you know, prior to that, like there's just certain like it's a very transitional thing that you do with your life. Like you get into skateboarding, boom, you're a fucking skateboarder till you die. For a lot of people, you go, the club is like this temporary thing that people are doing during a certain part of their life to sort of compensate for something that they don't have at that time.
I think going to clubs, you know, I can speak, you know, when you went to a club, you went either to go have fun with your friends or actually to go pick up chicks. That was it.
Exactly.
Nowadays, you can just fucking sit at home on one of many apps and fucking get pussy delivered to you, food delivered to you, weed delivered to you. It's like you don't have to leave the fucking house. Yo, I hooked up Alexa in my house, okay? I hooked up Alexa in my house, and the lazy piece of shit I am, I fucking sat there one Sunday, I swear to God, with Alexa, I ordered fucking Domino's. I can control my TV. I can call the store, and I can answer phone calls. I didn't leave my couch for like 7 hours, and I'm like, other to open the door to get the pizza. And I was just like, what the fuck?
Don't they got an app for that? It could unlock the door?
Well, yeah, I had that fucking...
They probably do, yeah.
The Wi-Fi lock, but I didn't get that one. But the thing is, it's crazy. That's why we went to clubs. It was like, yo, to pick up chicks and to go have fun with your friends and get wasted and have stories to tell like 10 years later. You know what I mean? But now you don't need to anymore.
I mean, once you've accomplished something with your life, those same stories that seem super funny when you were like in your mid or early 20s or whatever, now, like when I hear my friends fucking talking about shit that happens when they go out and get drunk or get fucked up, I'm like, whoa, that sounds like a lawsuit. That sounds like, oh my God, like that's just so risky to put yourself in that situation. I got a lot to lose now, you know?
Yeah, it's different, especially for you. You know what I mean? And like you have more, I mean, now it's like you can't do anything. It's like you have to rethink how you talk to people because you could say something that is normal to like to us, but that one person can take it and misconstrue it, especially with somebody like you or Chad, somebody with fame. Oh, this guy said this and emphasize that one word. And it's like, it can go either way. And that person can start a whole shit campaign. Next thing you know, you're defending yourself and like, what the fuck? It's, I mean, I love what you do, but it's like, I feel almost bad for you because in a way, because, you know, I dealt with it on MTV a little bit, like in a small sense where if I didn't write a kid back, you know, I would see that kid once by chance. I wrote you a letter and you didn't fucking answer. You're a fucking piece of shit. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, like I get like a couple hundred letters a week. Sorry, homie. Like, you know what I mean? And you though, it's like, I mean, I don't know how you do it, dude.
The trick is that you can't think about it like, oh, I want everybody to like me. No. You got to just think of it like, I want everybody to know about me. I want to just go on here and just say shit that people are going to pay attention to. And it's like, they're
like
either
Howard Stern.
They're going to gravitate towards it. They're either really, really going to like you or they're really going to hate you. And either way is all right.
Yeah.
I think, most of my friends are like that. They're people that people either love them or hate them. Yeah. All of my friends are in
like
that category.
You either love me.
Yeah.
And then you start
I love you.
I know you love.
You start to get more and more popular though, and then you start to think, well, I don't want to say that because people are going to get offended. But the trick is to say it anyway because it doesn't fucking matter. You got popular for your opinions or for
Dude, thank you. Yeah. Because I get into arguments all the time. I've put my Brooklyn Dom persona on hold because seriously, I get into arguments with some people. My girlfriend sometimes
you might want to bring it down.
Yeah, okay. See, but that's like, you know, it's like, you know, you can't be saying this, you can't be saying that. I'm like, well, wait a minute. That's what made me who I am. Because if you think of any other skate shop owner, and I'm not trying to gas myself up, but there was no skate shop owners that became, you know, semi-pseudo celebrity famous like myself with the skate shop. We know Brooklyn Projects.
Well, you created like a personality associated with the store itself.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, but you know me and Chad knows me as Dom DeLuca. But there's also Brooklyn Dom, and it's like, you know, I'm like, fuck this, fuck that. But I'm not like that when I'm with friends. I'm respectful and this and that. But sometimes like, fuck you, I don't give a fuck. Yeah. And that's why he knows every fucking side of me, this fucking dude.
He's got a bad mouth.
I do.
Let me ask you this. Was there, at your worst in terms of the partying and stuff, did you consider yourself an alcoholic, and would you consider yourself a drug addict at that time? Like, and when you got out of it, was it like full-fledged, like hard to beat the shit that you were on?
So I'm an all or nothing person, and I was very conscious of my actions. I chose to, like, I was going out to get fucking wasted, to black out, like to get smashed. And like I drank, I partied hard in all aspects of it. But the thing with me was somehow I've always had the ability to shut it off whenever I wanted to. Like, so whenever I quit drinking, and I've had a few cycles of partying and then getting sober, partying, getting sober, before now for about 5 years not drinking.
Drinking's the root of it all.
Yeah, for me, that's the worst thing. I think smoking weed is great. Right. If you're able to not going as deep as I do, because when I'm a stoner, I'm like a beyond stoner too. Really? Like I smoke an ounce every couple days, or like, and I'm just like.
There's a lot of rappers out there who just heard that and they're like, that's
nothing. That's not even nothing. Yeah, I'm an ounce. I'm an ounce. Yeah.
An ounce an hour over here.
Yeah, but I mean, but then for me, it was more like, as I create a lot of art now and do a lot of work within artistic expression and things that allow me to stay at home and be alone and create those things. When I'm a stoner, I dive too deep into those things and I don't share them with the world, which is an important aspect of doing it. But I drank like an alcoholic, but I don't think I ever was an alcoholic because I never physically craved it. Like I never woke up in the morning and was like, I need to have some whiskey and drink, you know?
I feel the same exact way.
Yeah. But when I drank a bottle of whiskey, 10 bottles of whiskey, whatever it was. But every time I've become sober, it's usually I made an ass of myself, did something ridiculous, and then woke up the next day and was like, all right, I got to chill. And then after eventually a few of those things, I was like, all right, there's really not much left. I'm not getting anything positive out of this lifestyle anymore. And that's when I just said, I cut it. I'm not an AA dude. I'm not a rehab dude. I don't think any of those things are bad. If it works for people, that's great for them. For myself, I just quit drinking and then I quit smoking. And I could say for myself, it's the best thing that ever happened to my life. And the world is much more clear. My thoughts, my interactions with people, everything about life became a different experience for me that I hadn't experienced for 25 years straight. I was in the same cycle, you know.
Give me that water.
And so but once again, like I think like it's all about cycles, you know. And I don't preach on this lifestyle choice of mine right now on anybody. Like I don't think like everybody needs to not smoke weed or not drink because. Looking back, I wouldn't have changed any of it because I had to go through all those actions to understand what this feeling is now. If I was just sober my whole life, I wouldn't understand what I'm feeling right now. It would be just the same thing all the time.
Say you were to meet it probably happens all the time that you're around some, 20-year-old pro that's got the world at his fucking fingertips. And you're talking to him and he's going out getting fucked up, doing pills, drinking whatever, doing coke. Is there a part of you that wants to fucking just be able to lead them in the right direction? And do you think that even in that conversation, is there ever really hope or do they have to learn that lesson on their own?
I like whenever I see somebody that I think needs to hear something, I'm going to say it, but I try to do it in a respectful manner, like more about sharing my experience with them opposed to like telling them like, you got to do this or you got to do that. I like to tell them what I've been through and where I'm at now. And maybe if it's a better positive thing that they could relate to it in some way. But yeah, I think that they have to go through it with it, but they have to be reminded that they're not invincible because nobody's invincible. And we see young people die too soon that are usually the most amazing people too. And what I think is that the most amazing people in this world are the most talented and they have so much to give and so much to create and express and put out in this world. They're usually the ones that are, have the most hardcore like demons within them, the people, the best musicians, the best skaters, the best artists, like they give you the best work, but they also are struggling with something internally that allows them to express themselves in that such of a great manner. And so they're the most dangerous ones, and they're the people that we celebrate after they die, and we love them, and we think about how much they gave in this short amount of time on this earth. And they are the most at risk as far as like partying and heading down to that dark tunnel, and it's because they have so much inside of them and they share so much that there's also these they're always high, like up in this, like they're so positive and they're the raddest people, but I guarantee that they have this like flip side that's like very down and very dark, and that it's easily takes control over you. And I feel like I've had a lot of that roller coaster of pendulum of life of darkness and lightness coming in and out of my life.
Right. Yeah. When you look at like skaters, you feel like I think about that a lot with rappers is that, the dudes who are conflicted, who've been through stuff, who've seen terrible things, a lot of times produce the best art. You think that's true in skating? Or a lot of times when I look at skaters, I feel like some of the dudes who do the best are maybe the people who are kind of almost have like a boring personality and are able to just shut up, skate, learn all this crazy stuff.
I disagree with
you don't
that.
Think?
100%, because that is the most boring skateboarding to me in the world.
Right.
The person that trains and becomes the best and does every single trick, and it's just I don't care what they do.
It's like a robot.
There's nothing to it to me. But when I see that dude that like, you know, escaped like out of like, you know, the favelas in Brazil or something and came to America and it doesn't speak English and like has to go through like, you know, or comes from some hood in America or the trailer park or whatever that they come from.
Antoine Dixon.
And they make this struggle. Him. Yeah, he's
like great artist, but then he's like one of the more troubled dudes that you've met through the shit. Even though he's sober now,
it makes it interesting. You know, it really there's and skateboarding for me before I became pro and it was in the 80s and I looked up to these guys, like there had to be like, you were like, that pro was so iconic. There was something so special and unique about them. You were like, you know, that's Mark Gonzalez or that's, you know, whoever else, Nadas Kapis and you know, all these like street skaters that I like really idolized. They were so unique and they had something so special about them. And it doesn't only mean like, oh, this like ghetto crazy kid. It doesn't have to be that story, but there's very special, like unique personalities within skateboarding that make are equally as important as your ability on the skateboard. It's like skateboarding is like a form of dance. It's a personal performance art that everybody does a kickflip, but this one person will kickflip and just be like, whoa, like look at that, like that's amazing. And it's the same exact trick. And I think that comes across in personality, the way you dress, the way you speak, the way you move, all those things are very important in skateboarding, at least to myself. In this day and age, I see a lot of that dying out, and I see a lot of as we get more into this corporate involvement and televised things, they need that robotic performance, and it becomes dumbed down a bit to where it becomes these team sports, which I don't have anything against team sports. You know, basketball is amazing. I love watching basketball. All those sports take skill and effort and community and interaction. But the most beautiful thing about skateboarding, but for me always is that there's nobody else that matters but you, your skateboard, this obstacle in front of you, and time ceases to exist when you're against this mental, physical challenge that you have. And that expression is so important within that process. And to be a professional skateboarder, there's a bazillion great skateboarders out there, but I think that you have to have something that people relate to, that they want to emulate your style. They want to like be like that person. Even if it's a troubled person, maybe they don't want to be like them necessarily, but they relate to that because we're all troubled. Nobody's perfect in this world, you know? Nobody just shows up in their perfect polo shirt and does their skateboard tricks and goes back to their fancy car to their nice house. That's not reality, you know what I mean? And that's the way skateboarding is being presented a bit nowadays. And it's, you know, life is fucked. That's a big part of life is being fucked. And so when you're able to share that and show that and show that you've overcome certain scenarios of that crazy aspect of life and you're able to produce and still do these things, that's important to me. And that's what skateboarding has always been to me. And the music of the youth culture that comes out is an expression of that struggle and trying to put into words or into sound the emotions that we feel and go through. That's, you know, I don't even know where I'm going with this, but
no. And I mean, do you ever think about like, you know, because when I look at art or when I was music specifically, most of the time, it's like when I look at the greatest, you know, rappers, it's like the ones who have the kind of impact that could just be sort of like a paradigm shift for the entire game. Like you're really measured by your impact and how you're able to sort of change things. Like, are you aware of and like able to accept at this point, like without feeling like you're being a total cocky bastard, like just the impact that your skating, that like your personality was so big and your ability to affect skateboarding was so big that you had kids trying to be like you, and like you really like helped to like shift the whole style of dress, the whole style of like what skateboarding was for a while. It's like, do you look at that, or are you even able to like comprehend the way that people sort of regard you at times?
At that time back in the day, I didn't, you know, because I was just a young kid that it just started happening. I didn't even know it was a machine that I was put into, and then it just kept going. And I didn't really realize the impact, both positive and negative to some extent, you know, is where like I was partying, going through all this stuff and sharing it with kids who a lot of kids were partying as well too. And kids are going to party regardless, you know, it's part of it. But looking back, sometimes I'm like, damn, like, did I like make these kids smoke weed and drink and aspire to this like lifestyle that I was trying to attain that, seemed like it was the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow kind of, that like some things that as you grow and age and obtain more wisdom, you realize that a lot of things that were so important to you during your youth aren't as important now. And so I realize now that as though I'm not nearly as popular as I once was in skateboarding or, in this world, I guess, in general, I still have a following and people that see what I do. And so I'm very aware of that. And I try to like share my experience that I'm going through in life in a positive way. And that also has down times and bad times as I still go through and experience and exist within. And I try to like share those things that I'm going through and to not only as a reminder to myself to uplift myself and go, okay, I'm still here, I'm still going and going to keep going, but also if other people can relate to that too and help uplift them in a positive way. So I try to be more conscious and aware of whatever impact I'm able to make from here on out. But years ago, I had no idea. I was just like chasing this dream of being a pro skater and making money and obtaining these material possessions that I thought were so relevant to success, or were they were the image of success. I needed to have this car and this house and these jewelry and this clothes and all these things that were like so important that in the end of the day, they're not that important. I mean, it's great to have a nice new thing, put on some new shoes, feel good about yourself. I'm not saying like you got to be like a dirt ball your whole life or something like that, but it's what I was saying earlier, kind of like if you're continuously chasing, you'll never be satisfied, and you'll have to reach a point where you're like, okay, like it doesn't matter if I have the newest everything, like I got what I got and I'm happy with that, and and able to live and eat, and the basic essentials are the most important thing. Where I think a lot of this world is like chasing an unobtainable idea of what life is and what success is, and they're leaving the truly most important things behind, which are family, friends, love, all these things that are the truth of importance of this world.
Do you ever feel like because okay, yeah, businesses, like we're just going to look at skateboarding, I guess, right now, but these businesses are they're in the business of getting people to spend money.
Yep.
And the best way to convince people to spend money is to convince them that they're not really going to be happy unless they spend their money on this thing. Yep. So it's sort of the skate industry has the incentive to convince people that they need to do things, or not just skate, because obviously skate goes way beyond skate at this point, but in terms of clothes, when I look at all these rappers and how the fucking industry and advertising has been able to dupe them all into believing that they need to buy $800 sneakers to sit around in the fucking studio or whatever, it's like, that's their motivation, is like that's their job, is to convince people that they need to spend money to be happy. And there's not a lot of people going out and saying, hey, like, you don't need a fucking chain to be happy. You don't need to spend all this money on clothes and stuff, because that's not a profitable message for anybody really to be spreading.
And realistically, it's not profitable for me to spread this message, because I'm still deep within apparel, within footwear mainly, and skateboards and all these things that I still are part of my business. And I think that, like I said, though, it's a balance, I'm not saying you don't do any of it, but you just like, you can't just keep like who really needs like 500 pairs of shoes in their house? Like, Dom does. Dom got it. But I mean, there's collectibles.
It's collectibles. It's all collectibles.
I mean, there's a difference between somebody who's spending a shitload of money to sort of like justify their existence and somebody who's like just got an interest, like cars. Yeah. Like, I don't have a fancy car because I don't give a fuck about cars. A lot of people love cars. Like, that's the only thing that they want to make a lot of money for in their life, is so they can have a dope car, because they've loved cars their whole life.
I just want to have enough money to buy more old school BMX bikes that I couldn't afford when I was younger.
I've never had that old school drive thing. Like, I've never really like.
You see my collection? It's like,
no, it's dope. And when I see yours, I'm like, fuck, I wish I kept the shit that I had in like 1999.
And he wants to get that physical trainer to get him to drop in on that rad hell track. We're gonna get Dom to drop in on the hell track before it's taken down.
I'm down.
We're going.
Wait, you're tearing down the ramp and back?
We're going to tear down the ramp and then redo it at the end of the month, at the end of July.
Why? You don't like the dimensions?
It's just like a lot of things with the city. Got in trouble with the city. Fucking neighbor.
Really?
I'm not too surprised by that.
Yeah, but so then, basically we tear it down, we rebuild it, because a lot of people were complaining that, it's bowled out on one side. Yeah, here. Yeah, so
that was Dom's idea.
No, it wasn't my idea. That was Eddie Radige's idea. And I asked everybody, and there was like, it added a new dimension to riding. And then, honestly, a lot of people that do ride it, that like it, some of the pros, from what I'm told, like even Shaun White's like, you had to like rethink the way you're skating.
Your flow is.
Your flow is.
Yeah.
It's not just one back and forth. It's like different.
I saw Shaun White killing it the other day.
He comes there, and he comes there in the morning, and he's just like training for the Olympics, and it's like, okay. I mean,
that's what he says.
I mean, he didn't say that, but
because where's the nearest vert ramp?
He doesn't. There isn't one. He had one in Malibu, but he tore it down. So
really?
He lives out here in Hollywood now, and he's like one of the nicest. Like he's like Chad. He's like one of the nicest dudes. Like talks to everybody that comes in the back of the ramp, and everybody skates with him, and he has like a game of skate with kids, and like and it's amazing. So now I'm going to tear it down and do it the way do a regular ramp. Just a regular.
But the city won't mess with you if you as long as you take it down for a little bit of time.
Take it down for the city don't give a fuck. Here's the thing: the city does care, but the building inspector, he really don't give a shit. It's just one neighbor that gives a fuck.
He doesn't give a shit until he gets enough complaints that he has to.
That one neighbor who's constantly I'm going to tear it down, and I'm going to go to the neighbor and go, look, dude, listen, it's not like I fucking have parties here or play loud music, and you're working.
Just sometimes.
Sometimes. But, you're working, and if you have a problem, like the previous neighbor, if she had a problem, she would call me or come, hey, you know what, I have a headache today, and I'll feel, okay, no problem. But he didn't even do that. He just came in, and oddly enough, he married the girl, the previous neighbor. He married her. He's like this smug little prick, but I'm gonna go there and be really nice. And listen, I'm tearing it down.
Let's hope he's not watching. No.
Well, there's probably enough neighbors that he won't be able to figure it out.
Right, but here's the thing, though. But he doesn't know. And listen, you can have the ramp, or by law, I can have fucking music play till fucking 7:00 at night in a store. I'll fucking put speakers back there and have a fucking concert every fucking day. Like, what do you want? You want the loud music, or you want the fucking ramp?
See, look at this. Is the old Italian fucking mafioso Dom. I'm surprised you didn't say like, "Hey, I'm gonna shoot you." No, stop bitching, or I'm gonna shoot at your house.
Don't make us send the trash collectors.
Don't make me send the fucking boys.
The trash collector is gonna come by.
Listen, you know how it is. It's like this, one dude, like you're the dude behind. It's like one dude. It's like whatever. I'm going to court, and have a lawyer, and I'm just gonna say, listen. From Justin Bieber to Chad Muska to Shaun White, it's a positive thing for the community. It gets kids off the street. I don't bother nobody. You never had a complaint for 9 years. I've had it. There's never been a complaint from the city, from the cops.
Man, and not to interrupt you, man, but I got to give a shout out to this guy right here, to Dom, because like you've been holding it down for so long here and giving like a space for this community to exist within. And like all these people that were no names came through, like, showed up out of nowhere and like showed up at this spot. They met a pro. They end up getting hooked up. You've launched new brands out of that place. Brooklyn Projects has just been such a special part of skateboarding within Los Angeles, and it's always so funny because people are like, Brooklyn Projects in Los Angeles, like what's up with that, but just your history of what you've done here and continue to do is insane, and I don't know how you do it, because it's almost like running a halfway house. Like you literally are like there, and all these people are coming through, and it's such an eclectic mix of people and personalities, and they come and skate the ramp, and they're hanging out at the place all day long, and it's I just commend you for everything that you've done for not only myself but for so many skaters out there.
And you know what? That's why you're one of the best, because a lot of people. There's a lot of people that Chad, and there's a handful of people that will never forget. What I've done, and it's like I'm not rich. For somebody that's had Brooklyn Projects, I live in a 2-bedroom apartment. I don't own a house. I lease a car. I have $200 in my bank account. I don't have a lot. I have a brand that's doing okay. But I've literally been doing this for the passion, and just to, him just saying or wearing a Brooklyn Projects t-shirt, that's my payback. But I wish if everybody I hooked up was just like him, then I would have a house. I would have money in the bank. But there's a lot of kids, the newer generation, that you know, we've talked about this, and I always turn the other cheek. And it's like I've helped out in the last 10 years so many fucking people, you know, that were proud at the time, but then they leave to go to other shops or other brands, and it's like, oh, I can't mention Brooklyn Projects. That's below me. And it's like, yo, man, I held you down when you were 12, 13 years old when nobody wanted to fuck with you. You know,
you held down a 12-year-old? Tell us more.
Well, it's 13.
Sorry,
but at the end of the day, you know, like last year we looked at how much money we gave out, and this is crazy. Like we started keeping track last year of how much product we'd given out to people. It was $27,000 wholesale of product. Wow. Now think about that. It's like,
well, because he won't say no to anybody. You know, if somebody comes in even when I need something, like
let me pay for it. No,
I pay for it.
I know.
I make sure I pay for it. You know.
You guys want one?
Yeah,
yes,
you guys
please.
have another one?
Yeah.
Is that cool? Thank you. Yeah, just you know.
I feel bad taking money from him.
But there's not many shops that have been around as long as you've been around and stayed in the game. I mean, a shop is a labor of love, and you know,
you can't get more labor and love than me.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, but again, I appreciate him for everything he's done for me. I mean, this guy has done more for me for skateboarding than, you know, a lot of people. I'm like, he's one of the only pros, literally one of the only pros I know that I can call him up anytime, no matter what it is for the shop, for me. He picks up his phone, and it's like, yeah.
What's your outlook on like how you see Dom involved, like BMX and skateboarding and music and kind of all that melting pot of all those things happening within that space?
I mean, I definitely think it's just important for there to be like a real diehard skate shop in this area, you know, and I it's definitely motivational to us because I want to be that same thing for like the BMX kids and everything, even though when I look at that whole scenario you have with the ramp in the back and there's a fuckload of room and people could just be sitting back there hanging out and smoking weed and getting in trouble, I'm kind of like, I'm glad I don't have a mini ramp in the back because that's a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of shit that could go wrong.
And you guys still put the bench out front sometimes and stuff?
Even that seems like a fucking liability because they come through and bitch about it sometimes. The ledge out front is good though because that brings a lot of skaters around who kind of at least like figure out what we're doing over here as a result, you know?
Yeah, so you're almost like the opposite of what he has, kind of like where it's BMX and skate involved, but more heavily on the skate within there, and then you guys are like have the bit mix of that community, but more heavily on the BMX here. Is that?
But you know what's crazy for me, and it's been like the weirdest thing to happen over the past few years, is like as a BMX kid, you look up to skateboarders because skateboarding is a bigger industry.
Better style.
You know, it's more advanced. It's always like skateboarding.
Hey, watch it, buddy.
No, but you know, skateboarding has been very like involved in like what has been going on in fashion over like the past 20 years. And that's something that BMX kind of missed out on. It's a little bit smaller, grimier. It's a little bit, it's sort of become, you know, more of like a hardcore thing in the sense that there's just not any corporate money in it. So it's kind of like, you know, when you watch like a BMX contest, there's a lot less like, you know, corporate labels and stuff like that. But in BMX, you always like look at skateboarding as like, that's kind of like our big brother. And then skateboarders look at rap as that's like, what they look to because, you know, no matter who you are, if you're a skater, you're listening to music and most of them are probably listening to rap. So like all these skaters knowing about my podcast and having seen some of my videos and stuff is like the crazy thing for me. It's like, holy shit, now I'm finally like, we'll see a crew of 10 skaters on the side of the road and they'll be like, what's up, Adam? I mean, that's been crazy as fuck for me because, you know, with everything from like the skate park issue to, you know, just like sort of being like, you know, piggybacking on styles. Like if I were to really like show you some BMX videos from a certain period in time, I'd be like, look at these videos that were like ripping off Baker really bad at this time. You'd be like, whoa. Yeah, that's definitely what they were doing. You know, this is dope. It was like, you know, good for what they were doing at that time. But I mean, that's just been like a crazy rewarding thing is to have like skaters fuck with me because as a BMX rider, you don't see that.
Dude, the fact that you have like, you know, 7669 Melrose, this was Brooklyn House.
Yeah, you got to tell me all about it.
Brooklyn House was a shop that it's what you're doing. We carried BMX bikes.
Yeah,
Hoffman, King bikes, I don't remember the brands, but we had our BMX bikes, skate, and it was like a big community. And even the sign said BMX, skate, and snow. And the fact that you're in here in the store where this created me right here. Brooklyn is where I started, but it didn't really take off till I came out to here and Chad and Guy Mariano and Costin and Kareem and Keenan and Gino. This was like their home. This was like I'm not comparing, but this was like Supreme. This was like the spot. And everybody hung out here. We had barbecues in the back. We had a basketball hoop over here. We used to eat basketball in. And chill and smoke weed and fucking just meet up here in Shirley, the liquor store next door. We buy our beers, and this was an empty lot. We
it was definitely the meetup spot. You know, everybody's, we're gonna go skate, meet up Brooklyn Projects. We're all gonna go. You know, and for me, I've always been down with BMXers like throughout, because I started BMXing first before skateboarding, and was all into, you know, dirt jumping and building bikes and trading parts. Like, that was my shit, you know, and my bike ended up getting stolen, and a friend gave me a skateboard, and that's kind of where it just really that's my love started with it then. But in Arizona, like, we used to ride and skate, and there'd be a guy, Marco Gonzalez. I don't know if you guys know
Marco.
him. Yeah, not Mark Gonzalez, the skater, but Marco Gonzalez.
In Arizona?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
that was like my hero when I was like 14. Yeah.
So he would go like ride with us, and we'd be skating. We'd be like, that guy's, he's one of us.
He's one of the most influential BMX riders of all time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
So he was riding with us back in the day. And so we were already homies and had that connection with cats like that, and then like Robbie from like Fit Life back, you know,
Robbie Morales, Robbo.
Robbie, you know.
Hey, we still selling Cult out here. We're doing Robbie shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because he switched it up this way. Yeah. I ended up in one of their old videos. I was like, it's Fit Life bitches, and then in some video,
dude.
And so the BMX guys always roll up to me now. They always first time they would say it to me, I was like, what these guys?
Because
like
what I was just saying, in BMX,
I forgot I said it at first.
In BMX, anytime there's like acknowledgement from skateboarding towards BMX, it's like everybody in BMX is like, oh, word?
Well,
nice.
dude, Robbie Morales was the only BMXer sponsored by a skate company, Zoo York.
Oh,
he was the first and
I
only.
drove through a little bit.
Yeah, he was on Zoo York. He was the only one because he was. Robbie was like the Chad of BMX. Like he had dope style, but he was just a nice guy, talked to everybody, and like he was down with skaters, music, everything. He was just a fun dude, and he didn't have an ego, but he was one of the best. You know, the fucking Trail King.
Did you ever see the river gap that he tried?
Dude, what do you mean? That's like the most famous thing. Yeah. The Pioneer ad where he jumped and he fucking fell. I mean, that was like the most raddest.
I think I've seen that one.
It was in every. Yeah, it made Big Brother magazine. Even.
Oh yeah,
you know.
Yeah, I remember that one. I'm gonna have to.
Because it was such a crazy gap. How the fuck did he ever think he was gonna do that? And then just any gap like that, if you just don't clear it and just fall into the hole, it's just automatic hilarity.
The fact that he didn't die or get fucking paralyzed is good, but he had a lot of weight on him.
He was a big ass dude at the time too, which was why it was kind of surprising. Yeah,
it wasn't that big.
Surprising they tried it. Yeah,
I know, but still, even that big dude. I'm not talking shit, Robbie.
We're not calling you fat.
We're not calling you
don't
fat.
Don't go puke in the bathroom or anything. I put on
some weight myself, but this dude has more skill now. You look at him; he gets on the bike, and it's like
smooth.
He's fucking insane, dude. Sorry, Rob. Anyway,
no, he's always been a smooth criminal.
There he is, smooth criminal.
Let me ask you this: like, when you look at what is inside your brain and like how your brain is sectioned off into like what you're passionate about, what you're excited about. Obviously, there's still skating. There's the brands that you're involved with. Like, what makes you the most excited day to day that you are like just happy to sink your time and energy into?
I think, like I said, I'm an all or nothing person. So that question the answer to that question is different each day, you know? And so I when I dive into something, I'm like all into it. And I think that the fact that I do all these different things keeps the interest in all of them because I don't get burnt out on one particular thing. So like, when I'm like a couple weeks ago, I got like for like the last 3 months or so, I started skating again. I got over a bad back injury, and I sort of just overcame it and was able to skate again, which was taken away from me for a while. And I was just like every day I wanted to film some tricks, do this stuff. And then I had to do an art show. And so I prepared for that art show and did that. And since that art show, now I'm like, now I'm shaping stone and I'm like diamond grinding and polishing all these rocks and stones and making sculpture. And so I'm very obsessed with that at the moment and doing that. But it's always changing. But I think like it's both my blessing and my curse that I work in all these different mediums. It is hard to balance them out and make any one of them the best you can make it at times, but I think I find a bit of a balance, and it's I think that's my main thing in life is searching for that fine balance between all those things, keeping the companies happy that I work with, working with these shoe ventures, been working with Supra for over 10 years and designing footwear with them, started up a new project called Stray with my friend Angel and Jamie Thomas, and we have that project going on, and so my my love right now is more in these physical aspects of things I can do with my own hands. Ride my skateboard, create this artwork, do photography, edit videos. Or my mind and my own actions. And with designing, it's great because you still utilize your mind and you create these objects on computer or on paper and all these mixed mediums of forms to get this. But I've lost a bit of attraction to a mass manufactured product right now. So I try to struggle to go this, but that's still my bread and butter. That's how I'm able to exist and live and eat and have a house, is because artistic expression doesn't always mean money, whether it's music or art or photography, whatever it is. Like, you do these things because you're passionate about them, but that doesn't always necessarily mean that you're going to make money off of them. And so I think for any creative, you have to be realistic about your actions and what you're going to get out of them. And you always have to have something that is a dependable income in order to fund your creativity.
Because, like, you can make a painting right now and you can do whatever the fuck you want, and it doesn't matter. Maybe somebody will buy it, maybe somebody won't, maybe it'll get used for something, who knows. But, like, when it comes to designing a pair of shoes, it's like certain things people are going to buy, certain things work, and you could try to be creative, you could do something different, but it's a very, very different mentality from, like, you sitting there just puking out ideas onto a canvas, right?
Yeah, it's totally different. And at once I felt like that with footwear and skateboards and graphics and all that. Like, it was the same thing to me. It was like creating an art piece, and footwear is an art piece. You're designing a little mini sculpture pretty much that are worn on your feet,
But I'm fascinated by, like, the power of that too, though, because it's like one popular or successful shoe design, boom, that could be how hundreds of thousands or millions of people experience skateboarding. Never mind just their day-to-day life. It's like in that shoe.
The sky top.
Yeah,
that's kind of a crazy concept.
So I've been working in footwear for over 20 years now, and designed my first shoe with ES Footwear in 96 or so, I think it was.
96.
And that was a pretty instant success, and I was very hands-on with that project, opposed to like a lot of skateboarders are. And with everything that had my name on it, I've always wanted to be involved with expressing that, being a proper representation of me and the style or voice that I want to stand for. And so, so I've been making footwear for over 20 years now, and it's been a crazy run of starting companies, experiencing this big wave of success within that, and then some of that relationships growing apart and moving on to start a new venture and having some big waves. But something like the Skytop, for the first time, when that one first came out, that was reached way outside of skateboarding and opened up our company to the lifestyle world. And this is over 10 years ago now.
I had them
10 years ago. It's like 14 years ago.
No, it's 10. It was 10 years ago.
2008?
That's probably one of 2008. That was probably one of the most experimental shoes I ever felt the need to buy in my life. I've always kept it pretty simple, but I definitely had those. I definitely felt the need to, like...
It's funny now when you look at it, it's a very common, just normal, it doesn't look like anything special, but at that time, everybody was like, oh, this is crazy. Like, the company itself told me I was crazy. Like, we're not going to... These aren't going to sell. They went into his shop and they wouldn't even show him the shoe because they thought it was so crazy. But it's pretty simplistic looking now, but at that time, for skateboarding, it had really... went very safe at that time. It was very just clean, Vans kind of vulcanized. There wasn't a lot to it. Every company pretty much had the same 3 shoes, and you just picked what logo you wanted to have. And the high tops weren't really hitting, but that's around the time when a lot of sneaker collectors were growing, and the Dunks were gaining in popularity. I mean, they've always been popular, but in that time, it's really when a lot of the collectors and Nike SB started hitting the skate shops and introduced the Dunk into the skateboard community. And a lot of the collectors were like, "Whoa, there's these new Dunks out," and they all started buying them, and that surge of sneaker culture coming within the skateboard community saved a lot of shops, a lot of business.
Are you kidding me?
It did it did great. Oh, careful
blooper reel right there.
And it exposed skateboarding to a lot of people who may have never went into a skate shop ever. All of a sudden, you had all these sneaker collectors waiting in lines to go to a skateboard shop to buy these shoes. And so I saw that happening. I saw some things happening, and high fashion has been a part of my life for years. And I was going to Paris into Fashion Week, years and years ago, in London and Japan and all these places that I saw be kind of pre-street culture, streetwear culture. It was just the birth of it, and I saw a lot of these things happening. And my goal was always to attach this idea of high fashion and bring it into skateboarding, which was kind of not really happening at that time.
And way ahead of its time, because now when you look at a lot of brands and stuff, it's like a clear mishmash,
Yeah, it's very popular right now.
What about, like, let's talk about ahead of its time, like, to go back to what he said, but he's like all or nothing. I remember when he left for LA to go to New York to live in a hotel for 4 months and did Musca Beats. He did that, funded his own record, and people thought he was crazy. And he had some of the most influential rappers ever.
Producing music's always been a passion of mine too.
I mean,
like
Musca
I said,
Beats
DJing,
was crazy.
breakdancing, graffiti, all these elements that were part of my youth growing up. And I started a record label back in around 2004. Yeah, 4 or something like that. And my idea was, at that time, all the record companies, record shops were closing, going out of business. I thought, what perfect outlet for music than skateboard shops? And so I started a record label, sold exclusively to skateboard shops, recorded an album, set it up a reportable studio in the Soho Grand Hotel.
Oh my God.
Brought together, this was like before the N-Box for Pro Tools or anything. We had this portable USB bus-powered sound device, mic preamp, and sound card that we set up and brought in a lot of influential rappers that I grew up listening to from the old school, from Melly Mel and Flavor Flav and KRS-One and Biz Markie,
Guru,
and then into, rest in peace, Guru, and Prodigy, rest in peace, from Mobb Deep,
J. Rue the Damager,
J. Rue, Raekwon, and U-God from Wu-Tang, and all these people. I don't even know how I made it happen, but I got out there. I was making beats all the time, and I was like, I'm going to make an album. Went out there and got these guys to come into a hotel room in my crazy rigged up microphone and record all these projects. And that was another thing that I thought would help elevate skateboarding, because I thought, hey, if all these guys are going to purchase music and they're not getting it at the record stores anymore, then they're going to come to these skate shops to buy the music, and then they're going to be turned on to the skateboarding gear, the footwear, and hopefully eventually turned on to skateboarding and want to buy a board and try to ride it. That was kind of the whole thought process behind it. But then iTunes happened and digital world. And,
as you were saying that, I was thinking, like, I bet you wish you started a streaming company instead.
Yeah. Well, if SoundCloud existed when I was coming up, I'd probably be living in the Malibu mansion as well.
Yeah, there you go. No, I mean, oh yeah, that's crazy. It's crazy to think, because I was watching you with KRS-One in the studio, and I was just thinking about, like, how did that happen? Like, you just sort of phone him up, or you meet him at the club or something?
It was like a series of events that just kind of all came, and it was like I was making beats and I was reaching out to people, and it's like a lot of it was being out in the clubs and meeting all these different people. And then my homies did a magazine called Frank 151.
Oh yeah.
And now they do Frank's Chop Shop and Frank 151, and Mike and Steve were my great friends who we had worked together on projects for interviewing for their magazines, and they were very connected within the hip hop world, and kind of were mashing those worlds together at the time too. And I had reached out to them, and they were like, okay, like, yeah, we know so-and-so and so-and-so. And then from meeting one, they hooked me up with Special Ed, and I did a track with Ed, and Ed was like, oh, this is hot. You want to get Flavor Flav on it? Like, that's my boy. I was like, yeah. He's like, call him up. Yeah, Flav, we got this crazy skater. He's making beats in the hotel room. Like,
yeah,
you got to come
boy.
down. He's like, next, a couple of days later, Flav shows up to the hotel room, and it was just like a weird series of events, and I was surprised that a lot of these guys were familiar with skateboarding, and as much as I was like, a fan of theirs. They were like, oh, my little brother skates or my cousin. And I remember Raekwon was telling me stories about there was this infamous hill we used to go down, and he's like, you had to bomb this hill. Like,
Staten Island.
They all had some story that came back to skateboarding too that they related to. And I was like, wow, this is insane. That
even Jay with the damage,
he was trying to get his ollie on in the hotel room. So it was just, it was just a great experience to see that those worlds were connected in some ways.
There's a lot of like rappers now who have like a half decent like skate skill set.
There's more now than ever has been.
But I just want to see, I want to see a top 10 rapper who is not scared to like board slide a 10 stair. That's my standard for what I want. I want
Lil Nar.
Lil Nar is up there. I don't know about him in a 10 stair, I'm gonna be honest. Maybe. But
Justin Bieber.
He's not in no 10 stair.
I don't know. No,
he rides the ramp though.
Yeah, but he's talking about like somebody that can legitimately get sponsored without the fame and notoriety of the hip hop world.
And I'm setting the bar low when I say 10 stair, like to even think of like what like an average Am or Flow kid could do now. But even I'm just saying, you board slide a 10 stair and you're like a real top rapper. I'm okay. Amazing.
We're putting it out there.
Shout out Lil Nar, I love you, bro.
Yo, Lil Nar or Germ, because when
Germ is
okay. When I was talking to them, I didn't when I met them just recently, they met each other at Stevie Williams, the what's it called, the playground? In Atlanta.
Yeah.
And they were skaters first. They were trying to be skaters, and then they started doing the rap thing less than a year ago. And I'm like, wait a minute. And they showed me videos of them skating. Their videos. I'm like, oh shit, these guys are good.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, man. That's just like, it's so cool to see that happening right now. Because like that was always my thing. Was like, I want to bring these worlds together and show that there's this connection. And like you said at the time, it was like, who is this crazy dude, like white skater dude, producing music and bringing this culture within our community? And now, fast forward to right now, it's just happening. It's there. It's and skateboarding is so big. There's like kind of different genres of skateboarding, even in community that there's all these different little subcultures within it now, and you have these like crazy bowl skating Hessian rocker dudes, and then you have like street kind of fashion kids and
like I love when you see like a hipster New York video and it's just such a specific like aesthetic going and stuff, like of filming, of dress, of everything.
Short dicky pants with the t-shirt tucked in.
And it's and it's not like how I would ever want to dress or whatever, but I just think it's cool that there's like little communities that are like have their own style and shit,
Yeah, it's huge. It's like music. There's all these different genres of it. But yeah, man, I'm just like, to see that these kids can skate and rip, and then they're off like getting like millions of followers on Instagram and getting this like notoriety within music and able to skateboard. That's like so great, because even for somebody like Pharrell and Lil Wayne and like people are like kind of like dissing on them because maybe they're not the best skaters. But for myself, like, and even at a time at first I was kind of like, oh, what's up with Pharrell, this and that, but I think it's amazing because it's so like as I age and realize what they do for skateboarding is enormous, and to open up that to their entire fan base, and it's like so much respect for people like Pharrell and Lil Wayne, who might not be the best skater in the world, but he's out there busting his ass, and you could tell he loves it. He's like thoroughly loves skateboarding, and that's just so cool for like somebody like myself to witness happen in my lifetime. That like people that are are just, they have this massive following within music, and they're just great skateboarders, and or just, even if they're not great, they love skateboarding. And that the best thing about skateboarding is that you don't have to be great. You don't have to be the best. There's no rules to skateboarding. And that's where a lot of kids, I think, get it twisted. They're like, I want a kickflip, or I want to be sponsored, or I want, all these things, when it's like, none of that matters except the fact that if you're enjoying yourself, that's all it comes down to. And when I see Lil Wayne and he lands a trick, he's like, he's got that look in his face.
He put out like an edit like a couple months ago.
I haven't seen that whole edit. I got to see that one.
I mean, it's impressive just because it's like, okay, if like I remember when Lil Wayne came out, there's a lot of people saying like, oh, he's just doing some tricks to try to promote truck fit, blah blah blah. I mean, he's not like crazy good or anything, but he can do some stuff, and it's obvious like from how many different places he's been skating and stuff that he really actually gives a fuck.
That's what I'm saying.
That's kind of cool.
I mean, the face doesn't lie, the eyes don't lie. When you see him land a trick and he looks at the camera, like it's the same. I see the same look in my eyes when I'm like, or my friend's eyes when I'm like, we're like, I did that trick, you know, and it doesn't matter the level of skill. It's just that personal, mental, physical challenge of going like, I can do this, and you do it. You know?
Pharrell, and I'm going to say this on record, Pharrell and Lil Wayne have done more. They've done a lot for skateboarding, more than any other, I think, rapper, musician. Everybody has taken from skateboarding. Everybody, every musician, every rapper, every celebrity, every fashion designer has taken from skateboarding, not given back. That's a fact. Pharrell, back 8-9 years ago, 10 years ago, he started with his own money, ice cream shoes, and he fucking put Terry Kennedy and a bunch of other skaters on, Jimmy Garecki, and he was paying them. He was supporting skateboarding, and then Lil Wayne comes around, does the same thing. And I have to give them props more than anybody because they didn't appropriate the culture for themselves and not give back. That's the problem with sorry, I'm going to talk shit, but like a Kanye who's taken so much from skateboarding, like the culture, the fashion, and not giving it back even one iota. You know what I mean? Even like everybody, Virgil gets his props, for doing what he did, but he's taken so much, and he's a skater. He skates, but he's never given back. Him giving back is like shouting out Costin or like, doing something with Supreme. That's not giving back to skateboarding. Pharrell put a bunch of unknown people at the time, paid their fucking bills, and like Lil Wayne built what? He built a skate park, and he's just when Wayne would come, like what Chad said, when Wayne used to come to the ramp and ride, he was like a fucking little kid. He was just like, and when he busted a fucking trick and he landed it, he did it 3 times. Like, yo, did you get that? Did you get your film? Did you film it? Like he was just like, I was like, damn, this is Lil Wayne. Like he's so like high. And then once he did it and he landed 3-4 times, all right, I'm done. I'm going home now. You know what I mean? Like, and I wish more people would give back to skateboarding because skateboarding needs it now more than ever because it's such a, it's not a dying sport, but the lines are getting so blurred, and
I think it's like it's an oversaturation. There's a lot. It's the biggest it's ever been. It has to be the biggest. There has to be the most skaters that ever existed in the world. But there's so many companies and
so many companies. Nobody's giving it back to the mom and pop shops. Nobody's giving it back to like the Brooklyn Projects or the pharmacies of the world or the Val Serves. Like they're not going back to the essence.
The bigger you get, like the bigger the sport overall gets, the harder it is to maintain that like sense of community. Like, oh, it's important to support your local shop. It's important that you don't buy a fucking blank board or whatever.
Right. I to this day, and that's why I get love from a lot of the skate companies. I've never ever, and I'm an idiot, and I've never ever sold a blank board, and I've never ever sold a shop board. And kids come in all the time. If I sold shop boards or blank boards, I've been making so much money, but why am I going to sell a blank board or a shop deck for $35 and they're not going to buy a Musca board or not going to buy a fucking, a Guy Mariano board or a Lizard King board? It's hurting but it's crazy. I understand like shops sell more shop decks now. I've gone to shops where I'm just like, holy shit, that I'm like,
well, everybody's a brand nowadays. Not just skate shops. Just everybody. Everybody's a brand. You know, like I'm my own brand, and like that's what to some extent we all are. But it's so we're kind of like it makes it harder because there's oversaturation of these little brands, and I think that creates an environment for the majors to succeed more. Because then if there's all these little brands, it's a lot harder for them to become successful. And then you have like the Adidas and the Nikes and the Converse and the Champion and whatever else that's like kind of dominating, especially within our action sports industry. We used to be our own community, and I don't know how it affected the BMX world or not. But it used to be just like only companies that come from our industry. We were our own industry. We created our own industry, and now the industry that we created is suffering because everything that sells is a major corporate sponsor,
or it's super duper small. Like with my shop, there's a lot of the cool guy brands that kids want, and they're really small upstart brands, skate brands, but yet they won't want to sell to Brooklyn Projects. Why? Because I'll sell streetwear, but streetwear is what pays the bills. Like I sell the Hundreds or LRG
So some of the cool like new companies, they don't want to sell to like a store like yours because they feel like it's not the right image.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny now. A lot of these brands, 6 out of the 10 brands have come to me because they realized, hey, this is I'm sorry, but Brooklyn Projects is the epitome of skateboarding in Los Angeles right now. As far as like community, I'm pushing it, and they realize, hey, why are we not selling to him? He sells so many boards? I sell fucking 100 boards a month, but you get
really
100 boards a month.
Is that a lot?
Yeah, 100 boards a month is a lot, and I sell about 40 completes a month. That's a lot for, considering kids can go to a Zoomies or they can go to any other skate shop, but they come and buy from me, and I don't sell no shop boards. That's a $55 to $60 board all the time, and I push it, and still some companies, like even my friend's company, like fucking awesome, I don't want to be next to fucking A, B, and C. It's like, yo, man, you lived in this Dill lived in this fucking couch right here. When it was couch in this Brooklyn house, Dill lived here, and it's like, I shake my head, I'm like, dude, like, really? Like, I have to pay bills. You know what I mean? And now the cool guy shops, cool guy brands, they're coming into the store now because they realize, hey, who cares? Let's make money and let's support skateboarding. Because if you don't support shops like mine, Well,
what you have is like attainable, and then some people want to gravitate towards the unattainable because they think that it elevates themselves. But ultimately, yeah, skateboarding, you do represent real skateboarding because it is a community and people and all hanging out, and like, once again, I don't know how you do it, but
it's tough, dude. It's like, I've been doing it for 25 fucking years, and it's like, I look at it, and you know what? If I die tomorrow, knock on wood, the one thing, and I mean this, the one thing that I get out of it is I have like memories. I have like friends like Chad, rest in peace, my friend Keenan. I have friends that to this day, like, that I met through skateboarding that still call me a friend. It's like, anybody that knows me, Chad knows, and I don't do it for the money because I don't make no money from the shop. I haven't. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a passion thing. And people like Chad tells me all the time. When I lost the shop, when we moved from right across the street where we were to wherever we are now, yo, there has been people, fucking close friends. I said, yeah, I'm opening shop again. Like, why? You've done it for like that time, like 15 years. Like, dude, call it a day, do something else, do marketing, I'm like, no, it's my blood. I want to do it. I don't know what I would do without the shop. You know what I mean? If I had $100 million in the bank, I want the shop to go to and like see the kids and, give kids skateboards, like, yo, skate. Like, I want to fuck get you off the street. Like, fucking just fucking do it, just fucking, support it. And it's tough. Like how he says, I wake up in the morning, so I was like, what the fuck am I doing? It's like insanity, doing the same thing over again.
Do you want to buy a shop? No.
Yeah. Trust me. There's a lot of things that happen. Because, think about it. I run a BMX shop kind of in the front, and then like a podcast / like rap label in the back. They earn very, very different amounts of money.
Yes.
Yes. It's a lot harder to make $1,000 selling bike shit than to make $1,000 doing rap shit. Let me tell you.
How's the most money generated within producing music nowadays? Is it through digital downloads, live performances, merchandise?
There's a lot of money in streaming. Streaming's huge. Like the top 100 most streamed songs right now, like fucking 60-70% of them are rap songs now.
And is that paid through like ASCAP or BMI or something like that, or how does the money come from streaming? I'm a little bit
I don't know,
out of the loop from.
I'm pretty sure you get paid quarterly by Atlantic, and I'm pretty sure I haven't gotten my first Atlantic check yet, so I don't actually know. But
okay.
I don't know exactly, but I know that like when I hear about the SoundCloud checks, I hear about the streaming checks, and that's definitely good. But then it's also the shows.
But it has to be through publishing, then, right? The publishing through is it still ASCAP and BMI that
I don't know. I'm showing my lack of music industry knowledge right here.
But it's Spotify. When you talk about streaming, it's Spotify.
Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal a little bit. Yeah.
Tidal too?
But even YouTube streaming, SoundCloud streaming, there's like all kinds of like different streaming platforms that people make money off of. But then like a lot of the rappers I know, it's like, they get booked for like a couple shows a month where they get $10,000, and then that's like a huge thing.
That's the whole thing. Yeah. God bless them, but when I booked some rappers to play the Adidas thing we did, it's insane the amount of money that they got. Like, I know bands, like heavy metal bands that have been around for 15, 20 years that can go and play and sell out 2,000 seaters, but they only get like 10 grand, and they got to split that between their roadies. But then a rapper goes up there, gets 10 grand to do 3 songs. He has no roadies, no nothing.
No equipment.
No equipment. And it's like, it's insane the amount of like the scale, how it's tipped.
It's
like
revenge.
Yeah, and
it's like revenge by like the young African Americans against the old white people.
I remember we were trying to book this one group. I'm not one guy rapper for the Adidas thing. One guy, and I remember I was talking to his agent. I was like, so "How much does he get?" And he's like, "Oh, he doesn't go on stage for less than 75K." I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" 75K. And I'm like, "Are you fucking joking? Like, how many songs do you get for that?" He goes, "You get like."
I'm gonna dust off my MPC 3000 right
You need to, because this guy's getting 75K. And I told him, I said, "Yo, homie, there's bands that play that could sell out 10,000 seaters."
No, trust me, 75K is like, who the fuck gets paid 75K? I know like artists who get booked for big festivals that get 75K in those big festivals because there's a shitload of competition. That's not normal. But you know what it was? They're testing the waters because you're doing an event that has corporate Adidas, sponsors for Adidas. Of course, you're going to go. You're going to say, yeah, we get 75K. I guarantee they would have broke it down to 5 or 10 or whatever. Like, just,
I mean, shout out to fucking, literally shout out to Chief Keef, Nar, and fucking, Germ.
You give Chief Keef 75K? No, I know you didn't.
I gave him like, 55K. No, I'm
you
kidding.
did not. You're not supposed to say it anyway.
I gave him 10% ownership of Brooklyn Projects
for a show.
We thought you had $200 in the bank account.
He came though, right?
That's my personal.
Yeah.
Chief Keef,
he's notorious for not coming.
Dude, everybody was telling me that. That night was so special for a couple of reasons. My first event, fucking Queen Bobby Pin Sophie fucking did a great job.
Shout out Queen Bobby Pin.
Hosting it. But then you know what? The thing that made the night that everybody was talking about, even Nar, and everybody was talking about this, was when this man got on a skateboard and did the Musca flip. That shit got viewed hundreds of thousands. Dude, when you did that, the fucking energy, you thought there was an earthquake. The kids went ape shit when he did the Musca flip on the ramp. And I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck just happened?
I just want to say, I wouldn't put it past Lil Nar doing like a 10-stair rail and like posting on Instagram just to be like,
but Little Nar did.
I want to see it, Nar.
Nar, where's that rap? I said I got 10 grand. Let's get some money. Weedmap's gonna give us some money. We're gonna do a fucking contest. Nar said it like, I got all this money to all these skaters. Have a game of skate with all the rappers. Rich the Kid, Lil Wayne. Let's have a game of skate and see who can really back up their shit.
Just go at it till somebody breaks something.
Yeah, exactly. Come on.
They're all better than me now.
You think? Oh no! I think you fuck Rich the Kid up at the skate park.
Lil Wayne or Justin Bieber.
If Rich the Kid takes the L in a game of skate, that would be the perfect end to this month.
How many skaters are there in hip hop now? I know
there's way too many.
Is there? But like real? No, I'm saying real good ones.
You're right. None. Yeah, a couple. A handful.
I mean, Nar blows me away.
Nar's good.
Like, have you seen Nar skate?
I've only seen like a couple clips.
He's good. I'm like, dude, you're fucking like, and Germ. Like, those fucking dudes are like.
Germ is really good. Yeah,
Germ is gnarly.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I have to piss super bad. We've been doing this for an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah, well, I know.
It's pretty good, right?
If we're gonna wrap this,
it's a long one.
Is anybody
for us.
with us? Is anybody with us still?
Yeah, we still got 1,200 people watching right now.
Damn! Thank you all. Thank you all for coming through, watching.
Thank you so much to everybody who watched this. No Jumper, coolest podcast in the world. Check us out on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes. Bang.
Oh wait! Before we leave,
what?
One thing.
Thank you for having me.
Agenda Fest.
My guy.
Yeah. We got some shirts.
The very end, strictly for the hardcore. Shout it out at the end.
Me and Chad, we're doing Agenda Fest this Saturday. We're gonna have a
Gender Fest.
A Gender Fest.
So you're gonna turn into women or something?
I already am. I do the tuck. On Thursday nights.
Oh, I love a mangina. Yeah.
There it is. Okay. No, we're doing Agenda Fest, Agenda Festival. The Saturday trade show. We're releasing a special capsule only over there. It's gonna be a Musca, a redo of a famous Musca shirt for Brooklyn Projects Musca.
Check it out. Agenda. We're going to be there.
Agenda.
Brooklyn down.
Agenda. Let's do it.
Agenda.
Peace out.
Thank you.